Essential oils. They're all the rage these days.
More and more people are bypassing the pharmacy in favor of something else, essential oils made from plants.
Yeah, but many are now swearing by the therapeutic health benefits from these plant-based oils.
After trying a natural home remedy, one, by the way, that is surging in popularity lately.
The truth is that oil has hundreds of compounds in it. And so if somebody asks you, what will that oil do? You can give them a quantum physics answer and say, what do you want it to do? Because it's just a packet of possibilities. Well, the Bible is not a book about oils. It's a book about God's relationship to the Israelites and the Hebrews and the early Christians. And the only reason oils are mentioned in there is because in that part of the world, in the Middle East, they're what we call the Holy Land. For thousands of years, oils was an integral part of their life. They used them on a daily basis. They used them in their food. They even baked bread with frankincense. They were used in their rituals, in the synagogue and in the temple. It was just an everyday thing.
Two of the best known essential oils are frankincense and myrrh. And the reason for that is because we read about them in the Bible. And so the old story goes that the three wise men brought baby Jesus precious metals and some essential oils. So the question is, why would someone bring not more gold or diamonds or precious stones that they had at the time? Why did they think that frankincense and myrrh was so precious that the most important baby ever born should get frankincense and myrrh?
All of the gifts they brought Jesus, the frankincense, gold, and myrrh, were all very valuable. And in fact, the most valuable of those three was the frankincense, more valuable pound for pound than the gold.
When you really think about it, at the time, 2,000–3,000 years ago, probably 30, 40, if not 50% of babies would die on childhood infections, early childhood infections. A lot of mothers would die after childbirth because they didn't have antibiotics. But the antibiotics of the time were frankincense and myrrh. We know today that both frankincense and myrrh have excellent antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial properties. So one of the main reasons why you would give such a gift to a newborn baby was maybe to preserve the life of that baby.
The three gifts looked after Jesus' physical well-being, his spiritual well-being, and even his financial well-being with the gold. So it was a complete gift for his whole life and for his family. Babies, newborn babies of kings and priests, would be anointed with frankincense. And so naturally, with the wise men coming from the east, and then they knew who Jesus was and who this child was, and that he was to be a king of sorts, naturally he would need some frankincense to be anointed as a child. And the myrrh came because myrrh is a companion to frankincense. But myrrh is more than that. Oils were used for healing purposes. If you mixed myrrh with the frankincense, it would go a lot further. And so they could get 4 times as much healing out of frankincense if they mixed it with myrrh. So that's why the three wise men brought both of those oils together, because they were really meant to be used together. Myrrh has been a companion to many oils because of the property of supporting whatever they do and making it last longer and more effectively. Perfumers knew that if you put myrrh with your perfume, the scent would last a lot longer. Women of those days, and Mary knew this, anybody in her culture would know this, that if you would take myrrh and put it on your abdomen after a birth for 6 months to a year, they believed it would take stretch marks away. So when the wise men brought the frankincense to myrrh to Jesus and his family, they didn't explain what it was for because they didn't need to. Well, myrrh is the most mentioned oil of the Bible. It was given at his birth, but also it was given at the cross before he was crucified. They offered him myrrh in the wine that they offered him, and that was done because the Romans, they carried wine everywhere they went because there wasn't any safe drinking water. That was their drink. And so at the cross, it was customary for them to offer the victim a drink of wine which contained myrrh, because they believed that if you put a little myrrh in the wine, you could drink more of it before you became drunk. And then in his burial, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus came to bury him, and they brought a supply of myrrh to prepare his body for burial. In his life, there was a couple of times, 3 times actually, that he was anointed by a woman. The first time was early in his ministry, and it's in the book of Luke, where a sinful woman from the city, it says, and he was at a Pharisee's house at the time, came with a bottle of spikenard and anointed his feet and washed his feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. But the ointment contained myrrh, because myrrh was found in all of the ointments of the time, and in fact the Greek word for ointment is myrrha, which is the Greek word also for myrrh. And the ointments of that day had that name of myrrh because myrrh was automatically added to all the ointments to extend the action of the other oils that were in there. So when anytime you mix myrrh with another oil, it would make that oil's fragrance and therapeutic action last longer. Later on, in the house of Lazarus, and Mary, who was one of his disciples, 6 days before his crucifixion, she anointed his feet with myrrh, or rather with spikenard, which was myrrha, which was myrrh in the ointment.
Now, this is up for debate by some researchers, but many researchers believe when you read spikenard in the Bible, they're referencing lavender or a very close cousin of lavender. And there's a scripture in the Bible that I love, and it just really shows the amazing capacity of love. And it's where Mary breaks a bottle of what they call a spikenard, and she washes Jesus' feet with her hair. And here's the incredible thing. They said that bottle of lavender, that bottle of that nard was worth a year's wages. That's how valuable essential oils were in the Bible. I mean, they were worth as much as a year's income. We're talking about, I mean, today, you know, $10,000 for a bottle. That's how valuable these were.
And then 2 days before he was crucified, he was in the house of Simon the leper. That's told in the book of Mark and the book of Matthew. And an unknown lady, they didn't name her, she came and anointed him on his head with the ointment, precious ointment of spikenard, which contained myrrh as well. So Jesus received myrrh several times in his life, from birth and even after his death and even at the cross, for many reasons. It was also one of the oils that you find in the holy anointing oil in the book of Exodus. It's also found in the holy incense described in the 30th chapter of the book of Exodus. Myrrh was a really fundamental oil of the Bible, the number one. There's an incident in the Old Testament, it's in the book of Numbers. A plague was sweeping through the Hebrews. Already 140,000 Hebrews had died. So Moses told Aaron, he said, go up to the tabernacle and bring a censer. Now a censer is either clay, ceramic, or metal container that's fireproof. He said, go up there to the altar of the tabernacle and get some fire, get some coals, and take incense. Now this was the holy incense, which was galbanum, onycha, myrrh, and get that incense and put it in the censer. And that heat source, the censer was a fireproof bottom part, and then a shelf in there where they would put the oils and resins, and then that heat source would vaporize them. And you've probably seen this when Catholic ceremonies, that's a censer. So Moses told him, go out among the people because a plague has begun. They referred to it as the wrath of God. He went out and actually went to all the tents. There was probably 500,000 people out there in the desert. So it was Aaron and all of his sons and helpers, and they fumigated every tent. The people would stand in the vapors. As those vapors even touched their skin, it was going the molecules into their body. And the vapors was actually soaking into the walls of the tents, sanitizing everything. The plague stopped right then and there. There were no more any deaths after that.
Up until World War II, you had practices of fumigation. And so people in medical wards and churches, anytime there were outbreaks, people were burning herbs. You had, incense, essentially, fumigation. They were burning things for the smoke. And the smoke had disinfectant properties, antimicrobial properties. And you could do that now with essential oil extracts as opposed to fumigating within a hospital. And I think there's tremendous potential in buildings, not just hospitals, but any kind of building, because not only are they antimicrobial, but you feel better, it elevates your mood to help moderate people's energy levels.
If you look at the origins of the oils that were used in the biblical part of the world, where the Old and the New Testaments took place, you will find out that most of the oils they used came from plants that don't grow in that part of the world. But the reason they had access to them is because if you're a trader and you're coming from the Far East and you want to go to Africa Or if you're in Africa and you want to go to Europe, or in Europe and you want to go to Africa, you have to go through there. That's the only way, unless you cross the Mediterranean. So all the caravans of the world went through the Holy Land, and so all of the oils being traded came through there. And so they had access to oils like sandalwood, which came from India, spikenard, which came from Tibet, onycha, which was part of the holy incense, which actually came from Indonesia. Even frankincense and myrrh don't come from the Holy Land, and they just use them, but they didn't grow there.
I talk to people about the importance of the spice trade because I like to eat. What's my food flavored with? Spices. You know, I like medicine. What are they built from? What are they made from? What are they extracted from? Spices. You know, every chemical company on the planet is extracting molecules and things that come out of herbs and spices and things like that. And so I ask people, we live in America. Why was America, how did America get founded? Why was it founded? Why did Christopher Columbus set sail? Because he was looking for a shorter route to India for the spice trade. The United States literally exists because of the spice trade. And things, they may not have been using and extracting essential oils like we know them today, but they would have been used in incense. They were compounding things. There were ways of extracting the materials. And the spice trade was vibrant back then, and it is today. And everyone in the Western Hemisphere, you know, in the New World exists because of the spice trade.